Okay, so Bellator is back for their monthly card, it seems. We're in Tacoma, Washington this week for the main event. Douglas Lima taking on the ass-kicking machine in Jason Jackson. The winner of this fight, well, if Jason Jackson wins, he should be getting a shot next at Logan Storley. I don't know why they just didn't give Jason Jackson a shot immediately for Storley, but anyways, we're doing this fight in the main event. Obviously, Sydney Outlaw is supposed to take on Patricky Pitbull in the main event for the 55-pound championship. That has now been canceled. Now Outlaw moves to the co-main event to take on Tofik Musayev. We've got 12 fights on this Bellator card from Tacoma, Washington this Friday night. And after you're done watching this video, go check out our UFC preview predictions for UFC London. Of course, the main event, Curtis Blades and Tom Aspinall. Also, hey, the Monkey King taking on Paddy the Baddy. Fun fight night, so go check out that video. First link down in the description down below. And also, if you haven't yet, make sure that subscribe button down below for some more MMA here on the channel. So about like 20 minutes before I started recording this video, Bellator made some changes to the card this weekend. The first one being that Archie Colgan is fighting Brian Nuro to kick off the card. So that's happening, and then we'll talk about the fight real quick in a second. Kai Kamaka III no longer fighting Magomedov, which is cool for Kamaka because I didn't think he was going to win that. So now Nurmagomedov is going to fight Kevin Golm. We'll talk about that fight later. And then now Hughes versus Hand is off as well. It's going to be the first fight in the card. Okay, it's off. But real quick then, I'll give my prediction for Archie Colgan and Brian Nuro. Archie Colgan's going to win. This guy is pretty solid. He's 4-0 so far. Last win was a win on Eagle FC. The guy's been pretty dominant. Brian Nuro is a guy who, like, I mean, he's 8-4. He's been around for a bit. He's lost his last two fights coming into this one. Now taking on Colgan. Colgan shouldn't really have any problems in this fight. I think he'll win it pretty easily by TKO in the first. I think he's going to take down Nuro. I think he's going to really work his ground and pound. And I think he'll win in the first by TKO. So this is my old graphic. Of course, I always do the first 4 fights like this. So now Ethan Hughes and Kevin Hands off. So just disregard that. I was going to have Ethan Hughes to win. But again, that fight's no longer happening. Kai Kamaka III no longer fighting Nurmagomedov. But Ahmed does have a new opponent in the form of Kevin Boehm. So we'll start with that fight. I think the result I don't think really changes. I still got Magomedov by decision. Kevin Boehm's a guy who's was on a 3-fight winning streak fighting in King of the Cage and in Cage Sport. He's really split time between those two promotions as of late. But Nurmagomedov, again, this is a guy who I thought was going to be a pretty solid fighter in Kai Kamaka III. He's coming over from Brave. He's picked up a lot of wins over there. The last one being by unanimous decision. He's gotten back-to-back decision wins. He's been fighting really all over the place. He had a fight at 150 his last fight, but then in 2020 he fought at 170. Now he's down at 145, so that's a little bit intriguing considering he hasn't fought at 145 in a very long time. I mean, it's been, I think, since 2019 was the last time Magomedov cut down to 45s. I still think he'll win. Obviously, he's going to beat Boehm probably by a decision. The next fight we've got here is Roman Faraldo taking on Luis Faraldo. I mean, this guy's got flashy knockouts. He's got it all. Back-to-back first-round knockouts for Faraldo. I think he's going to pick up yet another one. He's known for that, of course, big flying knee finish. He's gotten 2 of them now. His Bellator debut against Pat Casey, and then a couple of fights ago, he landed a flying knee in the first round as well. This guy's been on fire in Bellator so far. He's been knocking out dudes left and right. He's got 4 wins in Bellator. All 4 of them are by knockout. 3 of them come in the first round. Luis, I don't really think is going to stand too much of a chance. This is a guy who's 5-1 who, doesn't really have too much experience under his belt. He just fought 3 months ago winning on Cage Sport by split decision. I think Roman's got this one pretty easily. I've got him by knockout, and the first is a reason he's a minus, 700 favorite going into this fight. And the last up, we've got Jalen Bates taking on Mark Coates. In this fight, I do have Bates. I think he's going to be able to get this fight down to the ground quickly. I think he's going to go for a submission. Obviously, his first 3 wins in Bellator, actually his first, or 4 of his last 5 wins in Bellator have been by submission. His first win in his pro career, he won by decision. The next 4, he's won by submission. 2 in the second round, 1 in the first, 1 in the third. This guy's been pretty dominant so far on the ground in his Bellator run. Now he's taking on Mark Coates, a guy who's 10-7. He's been all over the place. He's won 1 fight in his last 4. This tells you something here. If we're being honest with ourselves, Mark Coates isn't all that great. He fought Sean O'Malley back in 2015, which is interesting at flyweight, but you look at his record, I mean, he's got a win over guys like 0-10. He lost to a guy who was 13-22. I mean, hell, other than his last win, when he beat a guy who was 6-5, his win previous to that was a guy who's 1-12, Chris Dempsey. Okay, yeah, give me Jalen Bates pretty easily. I think it'll be takedown submission. Give him the win in the first. So next up, we've got Gadzi Rabadanov taking on Bobby King. I think this is an interesting fight. Rabadanov, obviously being a Dagestan guy, a really good wrestler, like we've seen in the past out of him, making his 3rd walk into the Bellator cage in this one. He had a big win in his last fight over JJ Wilson. He was a slight favorite going into that one, but Wilson was undefeated. He was 8-0 going into that fight, and Rabadanov beat him by decision. I mean, obviously, the pathway to victory for Rabadanov is the takedowns, but you look at his first fight in Bellator, over Daniel Carey. He knocked him out the big check, I think it was a check left, or no, it was check right, and put him on the ground and finished him down there back in 2021. So Rabadanov has evolved his striking as well, but I think it obviously will be the takedowns out of him that will win him this fight, even though Bobby King, and his last fight was a scrap against Keone Diggs where he did win by split decision. I believe that was in Hawaii, I think. But the guy keeps on getting better. You saw the way he pieced up Gonzalez in his fight earlier in 2020 as well in February. The guy keeps on getting better on the feet and on the ground. Honestly, too, Bobby King does have a ground game, which I think it makes it interesting for Rabadanov. If he's looking for the takedowns, King can threaten off his back with submissions, even though I'm still taking Rabadanov to win this fight. I mean, I think the striking is competitive. I think it'll be close. I think both guys will trade, but I think it'll be the wrestling and the out-scrambling Rabadanov will do to propel him to victory. And I think that's how he's going to beat Bobby King. I got him by decision, but it should be a fun fight. Now we've got Vanessa Porto taking on Veda Arteaga. For Vanessa Porto, she won her last fight, picking up a win by decision in her last one. And, Porto is getting up there in age. She is 38, but she still has been on a pretty good run as of late. Her only loss being to Liz Carmouche recently, and Carmouche beat her by decision. And now, hell, look, Liz Carmouche is now the world champion for Bellator, or given should she be, because the stoppage was weird against Juliana Velasquez. I don't know why Bellator has not scheduled the rematch yet. Again, I have no clue. But Porto, of course, fought in Invicta. She was the Invicta flyweight champion. She defended that, I think, once, I believe she did. But still, she's a good fighter. She beat Pearl Gonzalez for the championship. She comes into Bellator. She loses her first fight at Commerge, but beats Lara Joanne in her second fight by split decision, and that was over a year ago. So we haven't seen her in a while. I think that was in South Dakota, if I'm not mistaken. That was on Storley, and no, it's Pitbull McKee in Los Angeles, excuse me. But Porto, again, is back, working her way back against Veda here, and Arteaga is a fighter that she's been, back and forth in Bellator. She comes in, she picks up a decision win, loses her next one. She's traded wins and losses. Her biggest wins are back-to-back wins, I think, now. Oh, obviously, Emily Ducote. I mean, you just look at the win Emily Ducote just got over Jessica Penne, and Ducote will be ranked tomorrow, I believe, in the UFC rankings. And Denise Keelholtz, too. It's a big win, submitting her in the second round. And they give her a shot at the Bellator Championship against Lima and McFarlane. McFarlane beats her, obviously. Then she fights Alejandra Lara. She loses by decision. And then she beats Yanez in her last fight by majority decision. But that was all the way back in March of 2021. So both these fighters not too active. I'm still going to take Porto. I like the striking out of her. I like the grappling out of her. Yeah, I think Vanessa Porto's is better everywhere. Going to give her the win by decision. Well, I mean, this is a phenomenal fight. You got Romero Cotton taking on Dalton Rosta. This is a tremendous fight. You have ATT versus AK, even though I don't think Rosta's I think he's still training ATT. I don't think he's there full time anymore. I'll have to check that. I'll get back to that in a second. But Dalton Rosta and Romero Cotton's a brilliant fight. I mean, both these guys are undefeated. Someone's has got to go. And, Romero Cotton's been nasty so far in Bellator. He has been nasty. Now, they haven't really given him anyone that's been too tough of an opponent for him. And Romero Cotton's been able to just go in there, outwill his opponents, outpower his opponents, and really just get quick finishes, like his last fight against Freddie Sandoval. I mean, Sandoval shoots him for an Imanari. It doesn't work, so Cotton just kind of falls into his half guard and just unloads monster hammer fists and just eventually finishes the fight. The guy's got power on the feet too, but also especially his ground pound. I mean, if Romero Cotton, and he's got really good wrestling, if he can get on top of you, he's a problem. And he's ranked number 8 right now in Bellator. You got Dalton Rosta, he's ranked number 7, and Rosta's ranked number 8, and Rosta's undefeated. Now, Rosta may not have the finishing ability that Romero Cotton's got, at least not to the certain extent Cotton has got, because Cotton usually just go out for it in the first round and try to finish his opponents early. For Rosta, his last 3 wins are all by decision, his last one being a decision win over Dwayne Johnson. He's able in the first round just to touch up Johnson, really work his striking. The second round, he switches it up, he takes him down, holds him down, and then the third round, then he goes back to the striking, he pieces up Johnson. At the end, he gets a takedown stuffed, not a big deal. Johnson talks crap back to him. Who gives a damn? But Dalton Rosta has been really incredible so far in Bellator. Again, undefeated, 6-0. Romero Cotton's undefeated as well. He's 6-0 as well. Again, two guys who, I mean, Cotton's 32, Rosta's 26, but still 2 prospects Bellator has got, especially at this weight class, of course, at 185. So, I mean, this is a really good fight. I am concerned for Romero Cotton, though, if this fight does go past the first round, because Dalton Rosta has shown that he can go all 15. He is, he's, I wouldn't say the same guy from the first minute to the 15th minute, but he is a similar fighter throughout the entire pace of the fight. Romero Cotton throws very hard. And if, say he shoots him for a takedown against Rosta, or he somehow ends up on top, he's going to throw bombs from the top. And if he can't finish Dalton Rosta in that first round, Rosta will get back up to his feet, and then I think that will make Romero Cotton start to tire, especially throughout the second and third. And that's kind of the same game plan Dalton Rosta had in his last fight. We look at his win over Dwayne Johnson, right? He wins in the first round striking, and I think he'll implement that same game plan against Cotton. I think you're going to see a slow first round, I think. And again, this is a good fight, but I think you're going to see a slow first round. I don't think Rosta's going to try to get into too much danger in this first. I think he's going to keep his distance, let Cotton swing big, and then in the second, he might switch it up with the takedown, or at least just threaten with the takedown and make things interesting and drag Cotton later into this fight. And again, that's what I think is going to happen. I think you're going to see a measured approach somewhat for Dalton Rosta until the second and third. And I think that's really when he's going to turn it on. Again, I love this fight. I could definitely see Romero Cotton getting him out there in the first round it's definitely possible, but I got Dalton Rosta remaining undefeated, got him by decision. So at heavyweight, we have got Davian Franklin taking on Marcelo Golm. I think this is a first-round knockout for Davian Franklin. I think it's pretty obvious here. I think that's the pick. I mean, Golm's not horrible, but it seems like kind of a step down for Franklin in competition. I mean, he's had a couple considerably, tough fights. I mean, I know his fight against Everett Cummings wasn't that tough. It was a guy who had a padded record who was 15-0 at the time. But his last one's a good win. He wins it by split decision. I mean, it's a grueling fight for Davian Franklin. He's an underdog in that one. He picks up the victory. And now here you go. He gets Marcelo Golm. I think he should beat Golm in the first round. I think he should knock him out. I think either you see Davian Franklin taking him down and working his top pressure and working on his ground and pound, or he'll just, he'll outstrike him and he'll finish him really quick like he did against Everett Cummings. Again, that finally lasted, 20 seconds? So Golm, he did pick up a win in his first Bellator fight. He beat Billy Swanson in the first round by knockout, which is a good win. He fought in XMMA, picking up a win over there. He was in the UFC a while ago. He went 1-3. He beat Christian Colombo, losing to Tim Johnson, Arjun Singh Balar, and then lost to Sergey Pavlovich as well, which in hindsight, that's actually 3 really tough losses when you think about it. I mean, Johnson, Bellator contender. Balar is now the one championship champion. And then, of course, you got Pavlovich, who's about to fight Derek Lewis next weekend. So 2 considerably tough fights. Still, though, Davian Franklin's better than Marcelo Golm. He's got more power. I think he should be able to outstrike him for however long this fight is last in the feet. Give me Franklin by first round knockout. Now we've got Lorenz Larkin taking on Muhammad Berkhamov, and for Berkhamov's last fight, big win over Joe Willis. I mean, he's an underdog going in that one. He comes in there, he slips in his first kick attempt. Willis jumps on top, doesn't really do much with it. Berkhamov in transitions reverses it, eventually gets on top, and then gets on his back, on Willis' back for a little bit, eventually sinks up a guillotine against the fence, subs him in 4 minutes. Berkhamov wins his Bellator debut. He came from ACA before that, in ACB. He was fighting over there. He was the former ACB welterweight champion only back in 2017. Struggled to find fights, honestly. I mean, he was in and out of a bunch of different fights. He was scheduled to fight in Bellator earlier. He got hurt, and he missed weight. He finally got the fight against Joe Willis. He wins it. Now he was fighting Lorenz Larkin. Obviously, it's a clash of styles in this one. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Lorenz Larkin's going to try to keep this fight standing. Berkhamov's going to try to get this one on the ground. I mean, Lorenz Larkin is kind of getting up there in age, 35. He's fought a lot. This is going to be his fight, number 32 of Lorenz Larkin's career. He's been pretty solid. I mean, since he lost to Paul Daly, right? I mean, he's won a bunch of fights. Has been against the best competition. Not entirely. I mean, his last one for Kyle Stewart, he's a -500 favorite. He's been big favorites in his last couple fights. But Lorenz Larkin's still a solid guy. It's just that, can he keep up with the wrestling and keep this fight standing against Berkhamov? I don't think he's going to be able to. I mean, this is a guy who's 15-1 in Muhammad. I think he's going to be able to take Lorenz Larkin down. I think he's going to be able to hold him there. I could see a submission for Berkhamov, but I think Lorenz Larkin's decent enough to avoid a submission, not get finished in this fight, but still, I got Muhammad Berkhamov to win this fight by unanimous decision. I think, again, he's just going to work the wrestling and not let Larkin get any of his strikes off, going with Berkhamov by decision. So I do think this is Usman Nurmagomedov's toughest fight so far in Bellator. It is, by far. I mean, you look at his previous fights, there are fights that he's -2,000 favorites in. Chris Gonzalez is a real fighter. He is a real Bellator fighter. I mean, he's 4-1 with the promotion, 5-1 with the promotion. He's picked up a big win in his last fight by head kick knockout in the first round. He did lose to Gochi Yamuchi 2 fights ago, but Yamuchi's a guy who's about to be in a main event for Bellator next month in South Dakota against Neiman Gracie. So Yamuchi's not horrible. And Chris Gonzalez, he's got solid striking. He's got submissions. He's not horrible. I mean, Chris Gonzalez is not a bad fighter. The thing is, again, he's taking on Usman Nurmagomedov. And in a fight between Usman Nurmagomedov and Chris Gonzalez, Usman Nurmagomedov is going to win. I mean, the guy's got skills. He's got skills on the feet. You saw his big knockout, or it was a TKO finish with the knee against Manny Nuro. He's able to take down opponents like his last fight. He won takedown submission in the first round. He's able to go the full distance like he did against Mike Hamill, win it by unanimous decision, right? Nurmagomedov's striking keeps on getting better. His wrestling's really good. He's got the jiu-jitsu to back it. He's got the grappling to back it as well. And the guy, oh, by the way, is only 24 years old. Usman Nurmagomedov is very good. I picked him by knockout in his last couple fights. I'm picking him by submission this time. I think that pathway will open up in this fight against Chris Gonzalez. I think he should be able to find the pathway to a takedown, get the fight on the ground, and then, of course, sync up a submission and finish Chris Gonzalez in the first round. Again, Nurmagomedov is going to be really good. He's only 24, and I think he keeps on winning, improving to 15-0 and remaining undefeated inside the Bellator cage. Co-main event time. I mean, Sidney Outlaw versus Tafik Musayev. Here you go. I mean, Musayev is coming off a loss. It is for the lightweight championship over in Ryzen, but now he's coming in and immediately thrown in the wolves. He's taking on Sidney Outlaw. And, Musayev would be a guy who's an uber prospect coming into Bellator, even though, he's 32 years old. He's a 2-1 favorite over Sidney Outlaw in this fight, which I think is kind of crazy, honestly. But it's simple, man. If Musayev's able to keep this fight standing, he'll win. If Outlaw is able to drag it to the mat and make it interesting and switch things up, then he'll be able to win. Obviously, Outlaw was supposed to fight for the championship. I thought he was going to have a good chance against Patricky Pitbull. Now, was I going to pick him? I don't know, but I thought Outlaw was going to at least pose a threat and a pretty good threat to the title run that just started for Tricky Pitbull. But look at Outlaw, man. I mean, 2 back-to-back wins over Piccolotti and then over Miles Jury, beating Jury by 3rd round submission back in 2021. His last loss does come to Michael Chandler, but Iron Michael Chandler is one of the best lightweights in the world, and honestly, I think that guy could potentially be the UFC champion. I still think that, honestly. I think you put him against Charles Oliveira, I still think he's got a very good chance of winning that fight. By the way, Oliveira Makhachev coming up. Oh my goodness. Give me Charles Oliveira at 2-1 odds. Anyways, Sidney Outlaw, again, 2-1 odds in this fight, basically against Tafik Musayev, and Musayev's a guy, again, coming off a loss, but still, the kickboxing of Musayev is incredible. The former Rising champion, he is a beast in there. He fought a lot in 2019, didn't fight in 2020, obviously due to the pandemic, but he fought in 2021 most recently, and obviously also owns the win over Tricky Pitbull back in, it was his 2nd fight for the New Year's Eve card in 2019 for Ryzen, but most recently, again, dropping the belt to Roberto de Souza back earlier this year. Souza, though, a really good jiu-jitsu guy. I mean, truly world-class submission artist in Roberto de Souza. This is a guy, of course, the Ryzen champion now. He defended against Johnny Case in his last fight. De Souza's a guy, again, who, you know, once he gets off that Rising contract, he's going to be a big deal around here, definitely with the submissions and the grappling that he's got. But again, that's what Musayev fell victim to in his last fight, but it's going to happen to you again, just considering the guy he was fighting with the grappling, the jiu-jitsu he was up against. Man, this is a competitive fight with him and Sidney Outlaw. It really is. We're gonna really see Musayev's wrestling in this fight. We're gonna see his grappling, and especially a guy who has not won a fight in 3 years, which does get a little bit concerning. But of course, that last one does come over the lightweight champion in Bellator. Ever so slightly, though, I'm taking Sidney Outlaw. I'm gonna take the underdog here in Outlaw. I'm gonna take him. He's what, plus 190 right now. I'm taking Sidney Outlaw to win this fight. I think if he can avoid the first round against Tafik Musayev, okay, he gets out of it. Now we can take Musayev down. We can wrestle him in the 2nd and 3rd. I'll be honest with you, my confidence level with this pick is absolutely 0. I'm not confident at all. I mean, I'll rank the toughest fights to pick on this entire card. This is number 1. It's 2nd, Romero Cotton versus Delton Rosta. Gap everything else. This is an incredibly tough fight to pick. I'm very tempted to take Musayev. I had Musayev for most of the week, but I switched it last second to Sidney Outlaw. The winner of this fight's fighting for the belt next. If this was the UFC, obviously they put an interim championship on this just because we gotta sell some pay-per-views. But of course, this being on Showtime, I'm taking Sidney Outlaw. It's again ever so slightly. I'm taking Outlaw. I think he's gonna win it by decision. Not confident at all though. Main event time. We have got Douglas Lima taking the ass-kicking machine in Jason Jackson. Jason Jackson's been on a roll. I mean, this guy just keeps on winning fights. Now, is it the most incredible fashion that he wins those fights in? Maybe not. It's just kind of wrestling, hold down, and just, you know, holding his opponents down and out wrestling them throughout the entire fight. But it's effective, and he wins. That's how he's won his last 5 fights, basically. He's beaten some good guys. Benson Anderson, Neiman Gracie, Paul Daly. He's fought some good guys, and he's beat them all. Now you get Douglas Lima, by far the toughest task on that list. But Douglas Lima, let's be honest, has been kind of a shell of himself his last couple of fights. Ever since he went up to go fight Gegard Mousasi for the 185 belt, he lost that fight. Then Amosov completely dominates him on the ground. Am I saying Jason Jackson's got the wrestling pedigree that Yaroslav Amosov's got? I don't know, but that fight wasn't competitive. It was just Amosov holding Douglas Lima down. It was very, it reminds me of that Johnny Eblin Gegard Mousasi fight where the challenger comes there and completely dominates the champion. And then Lima's fighting to Michael Venom Page. I don't think he lost the fight. I really think Lima won, but it was a close enough fight that Page remained competitive, and again, it was a split decision. Again, one judge had Logan Storley versus MVP, and the split decision I thought was ridiculous, right? I mean, it just depends on the judges you're going to get, obviously, in London with Venom Page fighting. But Jason Jackson, Douglas Lima, I mean, I think this fight's pretty straightforward. It's Douglas Lima versus a wrestler. Okay, Jason Jackson's going to take him down and hold him down, right? I mean, okay, like, how does Lima win? Right? I mean, if Lima wins, it's going to be him, you know, boxing up Jason Jackson and not allowing Jackson to make this, in all honesty, a little bit boring by him just taking him down and holding him down. But I don't think Lima's going to have a response to the takedowns out of Jason Jackson. And when it comes down to it, that's really all that matters in this fight. It doesn't matter if Jason Jackson's all that competitive on the feet, because if Lima can't stuff a takedown, and he hasn't really shown his last couple of fights that he's able to stuff a takedown. I know he was using his offensive wrestling against MVP because that's what you got to do against Michael Venom Page to win and be effective against MVP, but it's a whole different story fighting Michael Venom Page, a primary kickboxer, a guy who's going to go bare knuckle fighting and fight Mike Perry, to Jason Jackson, who's going to come in there and just out-scramble you on the ground and, like, let's be honest, not do too much damage on the ground, but still be effective and use his positioning well. I just don't like this fight at all for Douglas Lima. I think Jason Jackson wins. I think he wins all 5 rounds. I think you see, like, similar to what, hell, Danny Sabatello did to Leandro Higo in a 5-round fight in Bellator, Johnny Eblin did to Gegard Mousasi. This is going to be Jason Jackson's version of a 5-round beatdown in the main event for Bellator. He's going to secure a spot as the next challenger for the interim championship for Logan Storley. and he'll be next for the belt again against Sterling probably by it's Bellator, probably not until January, but I'm going with the ass-kicking machine, or actually they take a break, so like March. I don't know, it's gonna be a while, but I'm going with the ass-kicking machine in Jason Jackson to win the main event this weekend from Tacoma, Washington. I got him to out-wrestle Douglas Lima for 5 rounds and win this one by unanimous decision. So folks, thank y'all for watching our Bellator 283 predictions here on the channel. We'll be back in a month for Neiman Gracie versus Gochi Yamuchi from South Dakota, so we'll be back for that. We'll have PFL coming up later this month or in August for the playoffs, and of course UFC coming every single week until like September. So folks, thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button down below for more, and Mamba forever.